You're listening to a Mamamia podcast.
Mamamia acknowledges the traditional owners of land and waters that this podcast is recorded on. Hello and welcome to Mamamia Out Loud. It's what women are actually talking about on Monday, the 4th of November. I'm Holly Wainwright.
I'm Mia Freedman.
And I'm Jessie Stevens.
And on the show today, a woman's real-time meltdown is top of the Australian TV ratings again. So why has even our home reno inspo now got a side of cheating scandal? Also, something has happened to Sunday, while spending the day meal prepping is now the must-have badge of honour. And a famous woman has donated millions of dollars to an anti-violence charity. Why does it feel a bit wrong? But first,
take my Pamela. The American people want to stop the chaos
and end the Dramala
with a cool new stepmamala. Kick back in our pajamas and watch a Kamala.
Oh, that audio is Kamala Harris making a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live with Maya Rudolph, who's been impersonating her on the show through this election cycle and actually since 2019. Now, in case you missed it, it's the US election this week, of course. Can you hear my faintly hysterical laugh?
Yes. You sound very up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting mood. I don't think that many of us are feeling very up this
we're
week.
all hanging on by a thread.
I wouldn't say up. I'd say
manic, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Hysterical. The polls open on Wednesday, our time. Now, either you're full of existential fear and nausea about the results and you're refreshing the New York Times homepage until your thumb falls off, like me, or you have your fingers in your ears and you're singing perhaps fa la 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 in a bid to drown out the noise, or
maybe you're voting.
The third option is that you're mildly interested but don't really care.
What? No, the fourth option is that you're a Trump supporter and you're also feeling really good.
Well, no, everybody's nervous. It doesn't matter who.
Yeah.
My point is,
the polls are so tight. Either side is nervous.
No one's feeling like a victory lap is imminent.
Well, everyone's feeling tense, I think, about the results, except for the people who are singing or don't really care. But no matter which of those categories you fall into, I just want to get you across some quick basics. The polls. Basically, nobody knows.
Nobody has any idea.
Every new poll is closer than the last poll. And it's the closest the polls have ever been.
Yeah. Or they go, there are two for her, two for him, one don't know. That's kind of it.
And I'm clicking on a lot of stories that say this pollster has predicted correctly every election result and here's who he says is going to win, or it's like a snail who has crawled in a particular direction. I've stopped looking at the polls. Those of us who lived through 2016 were scarred by them.
I've started asking my dog and seeing if the way that her ears twitch, there are any hints, any possible gives there.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump was seen in a garbage truck looking a very unnatural shade of orange in a stunt that was designed to draw attention to the fact Joe Biden accidentally called Trump supporters garbage after one of the speakers at the big Trump rally in Madison Square Garden in New York last week called the entire nation of Puerto Rico a floating pile of garbage.
Cool. Did you guys see the Milwaukee rally where his mic wasn't working?
Yes, Trump's mic.
Trump's mic wasn't working and he simulated fellatio on the microphone and then he said, do you want to go see me basically knock out the people out the back? That was an interesting moment. I was away on the weekend and all anyone was doing was watching videos. They wanted to see the full video of him simulating the fellatio.
I think he did also suggest that people might want to go and shoot Liz Cheney, who is one of his critics, a former Republican, in the face. And my favourite little morsel of the weekend is that Donald Trump has promised to put RFK Jr. in charge of, I think, the health department if he wins. And RFK has excitedly announced on Twitter he's, I think, chair or a big part of the transition committee. So it's legit. He said that some of the things that Trump will do if he's elected is remove the fluoride in drinking water and ban vaccinations. So if Trump wins, maybe pop the surprise return of polio and measles on your bingo card for 2026.
When are we going to know the result?
However our audience is feeling, and as you say, we know some people are really into it and some people are like, stop talking about it. What are our plans?
Yeah, so as I said, voting opens Wednesday our time, and experts say we're unlikely to know the result for 4 to 10 days. But what I predict, because it's going to come down to a handful of votes in about 3 or 4 states, what I predict is that on the night of the election, which will be Wednesday our time, Tuesday American time, Trump will hold a press conference and declare victory, even though nobody will know. He'll just say, I won. And then whatever happens, it will seem like either he did win and he just called victory, or he has set up this whole narrative about stealing the election.
It is possible that, like some people are saying, we probably won't know till the weekend, but it is possible that we'll know on Wednesday or Thursday.
Of course.
If it's a landslide.
Yeah.
So either way, Outlouders, here's what's going to happen. We are not going to talk only about the American election at you, because I know that some of you will go, okay, we'll tune out of Out Loud this week. We're going to be bringing you loads of distraction, loads of other content. But of course, the wonderful Amelia Lester, our expert, who is actually on Q&A tonight talking about this, is going to be in and out all week, and we will do some bonus content either with Amelia and all of us, Amelia and Mia. We're going to be on it for you. So if you care, you can hear. And if you don't care, we've got loads of other gossip for you.
All right, so I'm saying goodbye. I can't be on national television with having my marriage breaking down. I'm going home and I can't say I'll be returning. You can talk to Brad about the details, but unfortunately I can't do it anymore. I don't need to always be made out to be crabby and the bad guy anymore. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sorry I couldn't stay until the end. I'm just not strong enough anymore. Thanks, guys. Love you.
250,000 women have read a story on Mamamia over the past week about a very particular drama unfolding on Australian reality TV. Now, the block used to be about home renovations.
It was wholesome fun.
Remember that?
I remember Amity Dry, who then released a song. I remember Gary and Woz, who were probably one of the first mainstream gay couples on a huge TV show.
I'm going to frighten you because that was 21 years ago.
I went and visited that block in Bondi. I was so into that show. I actually went and visited the set.
I like the before and afters.
Particularly bathrooms and kitchens. Everybody really likes all that. Anyway, I was about to explain to you all what the block is, and then I looked up that it was 21 years old, and I was like, I think we're across it. I think we're broadly across it, right? But what you might be interested to know is that even though almost everything about TV has changed in the last 21 years, the block is still a big deal. It still pulls in more than 2 million viewers on a Sunday night. It's the highest rating show that Nine has on BVOD, like watch it on demand. And because, as you'd know if you watch it, almost the entire thing is sold for sponsorship and integration, it makes a lot of money. So it's still a big behemoth that, the network's very invested in making sure survives, thrives, keeps bringing in the dollars. But this past week, the chat hasn't been about bathroom grout, which is disappointing. It's about a classic reality show villain who also happens to be a woman, who is almost always the case. And if you've been paying any attention to this, you probably know that a woman called Kylie's personal life is being milked for ratings. And depending on where you sit on this, she's either only got herself to blame or she's being roundly exploited. What happened is Kylie, she's 37 years old. She's a hairdresser from Cairns. She and her husband, Brad, have 4 little kids, and they are competing on this season of The Block, along obviously with other people, which is being filmed in Phillip Island down in Victoria, right? She said that she and Brad came on the show for a break from the grind of parenting and to make some money, because one of the big appeals about The Block is often the contestants do make big money. Not always, because it all depends on what the house goes for, but it is one of those shows, right, where they can walk away with life-changing money. Unfortunately, what's been life-changing for Kylie, rather than the money, has been her husband openly flirting with another contestant on the show, telling Mimi, one of the other contestants, on camera that he would love to follow her on OnlyFans if she has an account, and that he'd like to take her for a drink when all this is over.
Did he know it was being filmed? I mean,
Yes.
I guess they all know they're being filmed all the time.
So his wife, Kylie, was napping near him, but he assumed that she was really napping. I think Kylie may have overheard.
Yeah,
I think that was a surprise for him.
Recorded
But
too.
also it's on TV.
Exactly. There was no getting away from it, and Kylie was pissed off and she left. And then she came back, and as well as apparently dumping Brad on TV, she also gave Scotty Cam a big serve. She said, under her breath on the show when he was judging her garden, her back garden, that she fucking hates that guy and may have called him a fat C word.
About Scott or about her
Scott
husband?
Cam on the show. So that never goes down well. Now, we've all seen this play out before in one form or another, and the audience and the comments in Out Louders show this are very divided. They either think that she's an ungrateful, entitled so-and-so, or they think that she's a woman married to a bit of a dickhead having her personal life exploited for ratings. Either way, it's symptomatic of how so many TV shows, even if they're meant to be about paving and palm trees, have been gamified. Jessie, you used to write...
why is she ungrateful for not being happy that her husband's creeping on?
Because if you're watching the show, which a lot of Outlouders are, they're like, before all the cheating stuff, she wasn't this
popular.
and that and rude about this and that. And like, so there's more drama underneath it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
And then this has happened. So they're like saying, well, you know, what did she expect? And she's ungrateful, blah, blah. But then a lot of other people are absolutely defending her and saying she clearly isn't okay. We shouldn't be watching this on TV while watching it on TV. Jessie, you used to write about the drama of reality TV shows that were more specifically created for drama, like Married at First Sight and The Bachelor and all those things. But now we can't have our cooking or our home renovating or anything without it. What is that about?
I reckon it is because the words, and it would happen every season like clockwork, probably about, actually, by the end of Claire and I recapping Married at First Sight, it happened multiple times a season because it caused such a spike. But the two words cheating scandal were ratings gold. And it was incredible what it did to ratings, how it got everyone interested, how people wanted to talk about it. They wanted to know the ins and outs. The other thing that happened in maybe the final season that Claire and I recapped was the advent of OnlyFans, which became very fun because suddenly, and the Block is different because it's marketed to a different audience. The Block is more complicated because people watch it with their kids.
Yeah, it's a family show.
Yeah, Married at First Sight wasn't. So when OnlyFans came up and then it started this broader conversation about shame and nudity and sexualization and all that kind of stuff.
So do you mean that the contestants went on these shows and then started OnlyFans accounts, or they had OnlyFans accounts where they could monetize
It was
sexy
like the
pictures or videos?
discovery, the season that I'm thinking of, the discovery of one contestant having an OnlyFans put on the table like an ethical discussion about whether or not that was a good or a bad thing. So she was shamed by another contestant who came on and said...
But ever since probably the only organic season of reality TV was that first season of Big Brother with Sarah Marie, where nobody knew about sponsorship deals. I mean, this is even pre-social media, right? Every season afterwards, you know, I was there in the audience when Sarah Marie came out and everybody was wearing bunny ears. She didn't make a cent out of the sale of bunny ears. And then what they found in subsequent seasons is that everybody would go in, what's going to be my bunny ears? How am I going to make money out of this? Which is fine. I understand that. So you're saying that OnlyFans ramped it up again.
And it's become part of the thing, right? So people used to say they go on for Instagram followers, and, you know, you do, but also you can go on to build an audience who you can then sell your OnlyFans to if you're a hot sex.
Because you don't get paid much to go on these shows, do you?
No, and it just offered another element of titillation. It probably in terms of the rating and in terms of the audience skewed it a little bit more because they were having different conversations. But I think, you know, to go granular for a moment into the dynamics of a cheating scandal, like, people do want to come to work on a Monday and talk about whether their husband saying to another woman, I'd follow you on OnlyFans if you had an account, is cheating or not. Like, that's a genuinely interesting conversation. So, look, I think it's coming for all forms of entertainment, which we've seen. But I'm going to go on a tangent because I was watching something over the weekend that just crystallized a whole lot of disparate things that I'm seeing. So I mentioned on the show the other week that I was watching Mr. McMahon, which is about Vince McMahon, who is the co-founder of WWE Wrestling. And as a kid, did you guys ever watch it?
No. Yeah, I loved it. Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant.
Yes.
Loved it.
So as a kid, I was vaguely aware of it, but I never was super into it. But it's like my whole childhood and adolescence now makes sense because everything from what the boys did in my primary school to terms they used is like, oh, that was a wrestling thing. And so I'm going to put a pro wrestling framework on top of the evolution of reality television and then bring that into American politics. Okay?
Go, Jessie.
This is what my essay is about.
This is what her next PhD is going to be. This is her next thesis.
Early 80s, you're talking Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. There's a heel A heel is known as like the villain, and then there's a face who's the hero. And it's all confected, but no one cares, right?
Goodies and baddies.
Goodies and baddies. And there's an arena. There were arenas, I think now still, 80,000 people in an arena just screaming. Like they want to root for someone, they want to boo for someone else. There's something almost gladiatorial about the energy in it. And the aim of the game for McMahon, who I imagine now as a modern day TV producer, was what he refers to as heat. So it doesn't matter if they're booing or they're cheering or they hate you or they have names for you. There is heat in the room. They care.
Engagement, we would call it.
There is
now.
engagement. Exactly. And so it doesn't matter if everyone's saying, I effing hate the block, it's really degenerate, whatever. You're watching it, you're talking about it.
Yeah.
Like,
Drama.
tick.
All publicity
nailed
is
it.
good publicity.
Exactly.
Which is Trump.
Yes. So this is the thing. That's what keeps you coming back. It's rivalry, it's storylines. It's about seeing the worst parts of ourselves as well. It's like if the lives we're living is order, we need to see the chaos.
So it's like a soap opera, but grafted onto something that is supposedly real, like a reality show. Because they've always been soap operas for a long time. Wrestling is supposedly real.
Yeah.
It's a sport.
But people don't really care whether it is real, do they?
And that's
Which is
the thing.
almost similar to reality TV. Nobody really cares if it's real or not, except every now and again, and this is what's happening right now today with Kylie, we all get reminded that there is a human at the bottom of this because one of the things she said, we're all sitting around going, is it cheating that he won? But she said, the thing that really upset me is that he never flirts with me like that. Now, that is a very human, vulnerable thing that so many of us could relate to. It reminds you that there's a woman at the bottom of all this who is real, no matter how much of a caricature she is on the TV, and she might as well be Hulk Hogan or whoever. It's like she's not. She is a real person.
I reckon that that's part of what makes it so interesting is trying to work out where the line is, where the reality is, where the confected drama is. That is incredibly engaging. And the reality is that this stuff works. And so then when we go to the Trump, who's been accused of making politics into reality TV, I think he's made it into wrestling.
He has, and he's a creature of the 80s.
Exactly. So in the documentary, the show actually features Donald Trump. He's really good mates with Vince McMahon. He's just obsessed with wrestling. And I think it has informed his character more than anything else. Like the idea of the mocking, the trash talking, like crazy Kamala, comrade Kamala, like he always has a name, the repeating things when the audience likes it, generating heat. He's made it into this circus.
Sport.
This is why he found President being almost weird, because you've always got to be not the victim, but if you're the good guy, which he always is, you've got to have bad guys. So when you're the president, he's always victimizing himself because he has to create a narrative where he's fighting against somebody.
Yeah. And the reality is I even thought about him in that rally saying I'm going to go out and, hit the guy backstage or whatever. I can't lose my shit at work this week, right? Like I've got to keep it all together and I've got to be polite and I have to act in a certain way and I have to wear this mask. In the wrestling ring, on reality TV, in American politics, they get to just rip the mask off. That's what it feels like. I think that's why it's cathartic for us to see that it's like it is chaos to our order.
The thing is,
it's exciting.
100% yes. And that's why, as we've talked about a lot when we've been talking about the election, Trump's great strength is that he is very exciting. At some point, though, this shit has to get old because we've now been living in Trump's world for 10 years, right? And it's interesting when you go back to that comparison with reality TV is we sort of swing between, remember when My Kitchen Rules was really popular because everybody liked watching the couples be horrible to each other, but then that kind of tanked and everyone went back to MasterChef because that was about being nice to each other and people's sob stories. And then you're kind of like, oh, we're a bit sick of that now. And we want to, it's like
Back to the Dramala.
We all oscillate between them because we know deep down that it's not good for us to marinate constantly in drama and negativity, but positivity is so boring.
Having not looked at the block for 20 years probably since that first season, and I was watching some clips before the show today, I was shocked by how the Married at First Sight of it all has been transposed onto this home renovation program, or I guess on My Kitchen Rules onto this cooking program.
It's like they want their cake and eating it, though.
And now
And
politics.
it obviously works to a point because, you know, if you look at what the Out Louders say about the Block, some of them are saying, I used to watch it with my kids, then I saw this bullying going down this season and I've stopped. And other people like the drama, but I guess what the producers are hoping is come for the bathrooms, stay for the drama, or the other way around, come for the drama, stay for the bathrooms. Like it's the
You know what? The only
marriage.
thing, it either escalates, which is what we've seen on Married at First Sight, is it has to escalate every season to kind of retain its viewership, or sponsors pull. Because if I'm a sponsor,
there's a line.
There's a line, right? But if I'm a family show,
which is different from Married at First Sight.
Yes.
Because that makes a lot of money in a different way. But here you've got some of the most big conservative brands in Australia putting themselves inside this show.
Exactly. And that's when it might change.
Yeah. But I also think the other thing that's so predictable is that today everybody's loving all the headlines about Kylie and all the things. And in about a week, everybody will be very sad about Kylie. And it's like, we've been through this before, guys.
In a moment, from labelled containers to life hacks, what has happened to our Sundays? Mamamia out loud! Have you noticed something has happened to Sundays? What is meant to be a day of rest or maybe seeing family, socialising, I would argue for sleep-ins, has been co-opted. And I, for one, shall not stand for it. You might have seen an article over the weekend in the Sydney Morning Herald by Giselle Onion Newen that asked, how do you say I'm in my mid-30s without saying I'm in my mid-30s? The answer, she posited, is meal prep.
Oh, I'm so young.
I have only just started meal prep and I'm about to turn 34.
There
so
you go,
this is
you're right on time.
So spot on.
Yeah, I don't do it actually.
She writes that she loves planning out a week of meals, shopping for the ingredients, spending a Sunday cooking it all and then dividing it into neat little containers. It's what all the TikTokers do in the day in the life videos, and now there are whole books written about it. Sunday meal prep has infiltrated homes around the world. But I reckon there's more. Why do I suddenly feel like I need to have an everything shower on a Sunday?
Mm-hmm.
I need to deep clean my house. I need to get ahead for the week, get all the laundry done and lay my clothes out, dust my skirting boards, journal, meditate. Sunday feels like work in order to make the actual work go more smoothly. Do you guys get the sense that you're meant to have totally optimized your Sunday? Holly?
Yes, I do. And it makes me very anxious. It's supposed to make you less anxious, right? Because it's supposed to be if you sort everything out on Sunday, then the week will run really smoothly. But I often find I get very stressed on Sunday afternoons. And it's not the Sunday sads. You know, the Sunday sads has always been around, that on Sunday nights you start getting the dread about the week ahead. Because, you know, I like my job. I get to come in and hang out with you too. It's more that rising panic about all the things I'm meant to have sorted out for the week. And the problem I have with it, well, two things. One is it's supposed to be a trade-off, right? So the people who love to get everything prepped on a Sunday say, I'm trading a couple of hours on a Sunday for like a smoother week. But I would argue that Sunday afternoons and Tuesday evenings are not worth the same amount. You know what I mean? Like what's more valuable? What's more fun? What's more enjoyable? What's better, a Sunday afternoon or a Tuesday evening? Like
Okay.
a Sunday afternoon.
But I want to ask
They're
you.
not equal.
I keep hearing the term cooking burnout. Do you relate with that term?
Well, yes, because every person who has a family has to cook all the time. So like every night it's like, what's for dinner, what's for dinner, what's for dinner? And I understand that this helps with that. But you've still got the burnout of having to plan the whole week. But there's been a shift in cooking, right? Because we all know, we were talking about it last week, that the absolute juggernaut that is Recipe to Neats, Nagi, who's had a new book out last week called Tonight. She is a very famous in Australia. She was a food blogger, I guess you would say, who has become a publishing sensation. And that's because her food is simple, hearty, works, and does not take you 4 hours. It used to be that all the cool aspirational cooking books were like fancy things for dinner parties and like let's stuff a mushroom and let's like butterfly or whatever. I don't even know what you butterfly, but something, you know, whereas that is not what this is about. This is about simple, grounded, real food that works. And I think the meal prep thing is adjacent because it's like this idea that we could solve all that chaos and aspiration by just doing it on Sundays.
I wonder if Nagi's next book will be called Tomorrow, subtitled, and the rest of the week.
She does have meal prep sections.
I don't know what's
Apparently,
wrong with you
every cookbook has meal prep sections now. I didn't realize
It
that because I
does.
don't own that many cookbooks.
What else is Sunday for? I'm confused.
Oh my God, it's for enjoying yourself.
I love pottering. My favourite thing to do on a Sunday is to have the whole day free and I potter. And doing all of that organisation, playing with my clothes, doing all my washing, doing my kids' washing, sorting things into piles, reorganising my bathroom, dyeing my eyebrows. I do my smoothie preps, not every Sunday, but when I do my smoothie preps, which is my green smoothie, it's what I have for breakfast every day. It requires a lot of chopping of different things. Every 2 or 3 weeks, I'll go and buy all my greens, listen to a podcast, chop all my things up, put them all in little sandwich bags, pop them in the freezer. I feel so good.
Do you have are you about?
I love it. It's my
reckon
time.
it's only in the last few months I've heard about this concept of an everything shower. Do you have everything showers? And do you even know what they are?
Of course I know what they are. It's so funny because last night my daughter came looking to pilfer some of my products and saying, I want to have an everything shower. Can I take your cleanser? Can I take your this? Can I take your that? I want to like exfoliate and do all of those things. I don't do it all in the shower. For me, an everything shower just means do I shave my legs or not?
Yeah.
Because I do everything in the shower every time I have a shower. I wash my hair every time I have a shower. Every time I have a shower in the morning during the week, I wash my hair. And I cleanse, once or twice every day. And I don't use like body scrubs or anything like that. So
I like an everything shower too. And my daughter definitely has an everything bath every Sunday night. Sunday night is about that. It's about like setting yourself
I need
up.
it all done by Sunday.
But Sunday is supposed to be fun. And the problem with the stress of the having everything sorted is now if I do what is supposed to be fun on a Sunday, like go around for lunch at a friend's place, which is what I did yesterday.
See, that's not fun for me.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't have to be. But if it is, if it's a day that you normally catch up with family, see friends, aren't we allowed to have 2 days where we're allowed to do what we want rather than one and another one that's just more work?
But again, it's subjective. So what you want to do on Sunday is go and see your friends and go
hang
and have
out,
a lunch.
lie around, go to the beach.
What I want to do on a Sunday is potter and organise my life. So all of this stuff that is just what one does on a Sunday is just my happy place. However,
but that's fine for us to be different. But the thing is what this is about is saying everybody should be doing that. That Sundays should
and
be
that it'll
not
improve
a day
your
of
week.
rest.
Yeah, and that it's about optimization and life hacks and productivity and all that kind of
And
stuff.
we all know there's different kinds of rest, right? So
totally up to you though, right? So it's up to you. There's no one policing you saying,
but it feels like
don't go to lunch. Well, that's on you.
But
if
I
you
think
feel pressure,
it's the culture.
That's on you.
I think it's interesting though that meal prepping, to me that's quite new, right? I remember 10 years ago meal prepping was for the gym bros. If I knew someone...
And the dieters.
So the ones that I knew were like they would do meat and veggies because they were really into fitness and they became obsessed with what they were going to eat. But now everyone does it.
So the reason is the American Surgeon General, a guy I've interviewed on No Filter actually, lovely guy, Vivek Murthy, he released a couple of weeks ago a warning that parenting in the way that society is expecting us to parenting now and the pressure that parents are putting on themselves. Forget about being bad for the children. This form of intensive parenting is actually bad for the parents.
We were talking about this on the show recently.
Yeah. So to me, this spills into that. So it's like if you want to be this organised and have everything done and make sure you're spending quality time with your children all day on Sunday, and then, of course, you're going to feel like you've got less time.
See, I disagree because I reckon that meal prepping is also a lot of people who don't have kids.
Oh, very much. So it's a millennial thing.
Oh, no, I'm just saying everything in our lives, right? Everything that we're doing.
Yeah,
I'm saying for parents, it's worse. I remember I used to have to do this when my kids were smaller because it's also friggin' school lunches.
Oh, yeah.
Making sure you've got enough food for
de-knitting
school
them
lunches
and making
all
sure
that
all the
stuff.
school uniforms.
School uniforms are washed. So there's a whole thing if you've got kids. I mean, also everybody's got less time because they're on TikTok more and they're on scrolling.
See,
on their
Looking at
phones
meal
more.
prep content.
This is my theory.
And we're
My
streaming
theory
more.
is that I read this really interesting article in the Sydney Morning Herald over the weekend about how Lifeline has had a record number of calls. 300 people are calling Lifeline a day on average about financial stress. Like we've talked about the cost of living crisis and how much Australian families are suffering, but this is so real. And I think that if you are on a really tight budget, if you cannot afford waste, if you need to think about every single ingredient, and we know that if you go and buy certain ingredients in bulk, then it's cheaper. Like, I think that families have had to get more organised.
Oh, definitely.
Because of how much it
saves you money, it reduces food waste, and usually it means your food will be healthier if you meal prep. There's no argument that it's generally a good thing. It's just
but it's a two types of people thing.
It's a two types of people thing, because the thing is it's generally a very good thing for lots of reasons, but it always seems to fall on the women, generally speaking, except for the gym bros. And it has taken out another chunk of leisure time, which you could be spending on TikTok.
But I just think everybody's always, like, not everybody, people have always been doing this, just like being sick of cooking because you've had to make school lunches or family meals, or I'm sick of cooking for myself and I don't even cook. Now it's called cooking burnout. And it's almost like we are creating names and sicknesses and conditions and phenomenons. And I know it's interesting sometimes to put a name around something, but part of it is just how you choose to use your time. I mean, supermarkets have discovered that it used to be that basket size used to be one big basket and people would do a weekly shop. Now people are more likely to have 2, 3, 4, 6, 10 baskets a week, plus delivery from Milk Run or, Coles or Woolies or whatever. We're living in an on-demand society. So we're not thinking ahead. We're not planning ahead. And I think the reason that this is a big thing for millennials is that it's like, for all the reasons you say, Jessie, like people have always done this to save money, to save time. And millennials suddenly feeling like they've got less time, maybe because they've had kids, maybe because of cost of living or a combination, are going, now I have to spend my Sundays doing all these things. It's like, dude, we've always done it.
Yeah, but there's definitely a cultural shift just in the water about the fact that it used to be seen as a bit of a sad thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to eat leftovers through the week. You have to plan your week as if you're worried about money, as if you're worried about health. Like that was a bit of a sad thing.
But now it's content.
Whereas now it's but also now it's aspirational. It's like all the cool girls meal prep.
But
and
why
that's
is it
what this
aspirational?
is about.
Because it's content.
It is content, but also I think that it's about control. You know what you were just saying about this idea that so much of our lives is out of control now. It feels that way. So it's like if I can get everything in order on a Sunday, I'm wrestling back a bit of control, which I totally get. But I just think there's an interesting mood shift there about like it used to be a bit of a sado thing and now it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And you're right, Mia, it actually makes no difference to whether you just need to do it or not. But it's like, is it worth taking a picture of?
In case you missed it, Helen Mirren's Roman Empire is Kurt Cobain. And if you think that there are too many nouns in that sentence that don't seem to belong together, you're right. During an interview last week, the famous actress shared that she feels sad that Kurt Cobain, who was the lead singer of Nirvana in the 90s, she's sad that he's no longer alive because he never got the chance to experience GPS.
And I always say, it's so sad that Kurt Cobain died when he did because he never saw GPS. GPS is the most wonderful thing to watch my little blue spot walking down the street. I just find it completely magical and unbelievable.
That's the reason that we're sad Kurt Cobain isn't
Yeah,
alive
I feel
anymore.
sad for so many reasons, and GPS doesn't make the list.
What's interesting about this is that she uses him often as a way to talk about aging and about the progression of time. For example, in 2014, she told Oprah Winfrey, look at Kurt Cobain, he hardly even saw a computer. The digital stuff that's going on is so exciting. I'm just so curious about what happens next.
Is it that she feels like Kurt Cobain didn't die that long ago? Is it that? That it's like he didn't die that long ago and yet look at all the things that...
She obviously thinks about him all the time. And she's like, what would Kurt Cobain say about this? In 2015, she said to Cosmopolitan magazine, I was thinking about Kurt Cobain the other day.
I bet you were.
And he died without knowing the internet, and I'm totally blown away by that. And then the year after, she said to the Daily Mail, if I died at 27, the age that Kurt Cobain died in 1994, I'd never even have known that there was an internet. Incredible things are happening all the time, and I can't wait to see what comes next. I love her.
After the break, we unpack Anna Kendrick's latest movie and what's been called the Blake Lively effect.
Outlouders, if you want to listen to us every day of the week, you can get access to exclusive segments on Tuesdays and Thursdays by becoming a Mamamia subscriber. Follow the link in the show notes to subscribe and support us, and a big thank you to all our current subscribers. Plot twist, there's a story that made me furious on the weekend, and it's about someone donating a large amount of money to a charity for women. Let me unpack it for you and explain why I'm so grumpy. Anna Kendrick has said that she donated the fee she got from starring in and directing the hit Netflix true crime film Woman of the Hour. A lot of people are talking about that. It came out recently. It's about a woman who appeared on a 1970s TV dating show and was matched with a serial killer in the midst of his crimes. Here she is in her own words telling an interviewer why she decided to do this.
And then I was just making the movie, and we just barely made the deadline to get into TIFF. And then it was like, oh, there's like money going to be exchanging hands. And yeah, like I sort of asked myself the question of like, do you feel gross about this? And I did. And so I'm not making money off of the movie. The money is going to, or has gone to, RAIN and to the National Center for Victims of Violent Crime, which was a charity that Matt Murphy recommended to me.
So RAIN is a huge charity in the US that supports victims of domestic violence and sexual abuse. And look, why am I angry about a rich Hollywood celebrity donating money to charity? This is the reason. And now, of course, it's not about the charity and the donation because the charities have said how grateful they are. Of course they are. Netflix has made a huge amount of money from this. They paid $11 million for the rights to make it. Anna Kendrick not just starred in it, but she also directed it. It was watched 23 million times in the 2 weeks after its release. So it's clearly a big, big success for the platform. But what worries me about this is that it is an example of something that I've come to think of as the Blake Lively effect, which is, if you remember recently, Blake Lively made a movie called It Ends With Us, where she got criticised hugely for centering herself in the publicity and the marketing of the film, even though she was the literal star of it. And she got attacked for wearing clothes on the red carpet that were too nice and apparently distracted from the experience of domestic violence victims. And that really impacted on how the movie was received and on Blake Lively's reputation. And so clearly, fearing those same attacks, Anna Kendrick decided to preempt a pile-on. I'm not saying she didn't also have these good intentions, and who am I to doubt them? But my question is, are the actors who play men who abuse and murder women donating their salaries, or is it just the women? Is it just the women who play their victims? Because the last time I checked, actors like Zac Efron and David Tennant in Rivals and Channing Tatum, who was in Blink twice recently, all of whom are great actors but have played men who've murdered and raped women. Did they donate their pay? And is this now the expectation of every woman who tells a story, either in film or in TV shows or in even books, that depicts the abuse of women? Because to me, this does not seem like progress. Jessie, tell me why I'm wrong.
Your instinct was my initial instinct, and now I've changed my mind, and I'll tell you why. Justin Baldoni, who did It Ends With Us, he co-owns the production company Wayfarer Studios.
He was the director, yeah.
And he was the director, and he played, of course, alongside Blake Lively. I reckon that what Anna Kendrick is doing is actually the Justin Baldoni effect, not the Blake Lively effect. And I say that because he partnered with the No More Foundation to provide resources and information related to the abuse depicted in...
Only afterwards, only after people came for Blake.
I thought that, but then I checked and it's even in the credits. They, from the beginning, and he actually had partnered with them and worked with them prior. So he is very much a purpose-based, every project that he does, he is very much about how do I make the world better? That's how he presents and part of the ethos of his company. And so I think in that way there is this trend towards, if you're dealing with a really big issue like this, rather than be seen to be profiting off it, how can you give back? And I think that Justin Baldoni, I agree with you.
That infuriates me because do you know what's going to happen? People won't make these movies anymore. They won't make these TV shows. They won't tell these stories. Instead, they'll be in a Marvel movie where they can keep all the tens of millions of dollars.
No, but Anna Kendrick is worth an estimated, and this is always highly contested, an estimated $20 million. So Anna Kendrick does need the money. Just like Justin Baldoni, and you know what? He didn't donate his salary from.
But are we going to say that every celebrity who's got more money than us doesn't need it?
No. But if that's
and shouldn't be paid for their work.
If that's Anna Kendrick's choice, that she looked at it and went, I've actually got enough money. I'm doing this as a passion project and I want to donate. I agree with you that the expectation on women is a lot higher and that we demand women show us their wounds. In that Call Her Daddy interview, I think in order to justify why she would make this film, she had to tell us about an abusive relationship.
How long did that abusive relationship that you endured last?
It didn't follow the traditional pattern, which is kind of yet another reason why I was finding it really difficult to identify it and name it as abusive.
Okay.
Because I was like reading all the articles and going like, this doesn't look like some of it looks like how they're describing it, but not completely. So the relationship was 7 years. It was like an overnight switch.
And you know what? That could also be really helpful to women. But we saw it this week too with Jackie O. Jackie O has released her memoir, which we talked about on the show. And there was a lot of criticism. I saw it everywhere about how she was profiting off like talking about her drug abuse. And she's only telling us this so that she can make money off it. And she's come out and said all proceeds are now being donated.
It's her story and her life.
Holly, what do you think?
Well, I think it's complicated because my instinct is that I do think that women, like I can't even think of how many TV shows I've seen and movies I've seen where a man is an abusive killer and nobody
It's a whole
questions
genre.
It's the directed element. It was the fact that she directed it. It's not the character that she played. It was that it was her
project. I get all that, but I also kind of wonder if that is the case. I also kind of wonder if she was the star of this. But there are some nuances that are worth mentioning because this isn't actually a movie about domestic violence. This is a straight-up serial killer movie, right? It's not about an abusive relationship. The woman involved in it, in real life, she never went on a date with this guy. In the movie, she does go on one date with this guy. But that's not actually what it's about. This is much more squarely in the very classic serial killer genre of a movie, right? The thing about that, the positive thing about that, you could argue, is that maybe we finally learn a lesson about the fact that we have been watching culture that hangs off dead women and murdered women and women, you know, who are raped and abused and have to start with a body. We all know those tropes, right? We've been watching unthinkingly and handing over our money to the storytellers of those things for a very long time. And finally, we're kind of going, hold on. Isn't it a bit weird that we're all so happy to just consume this kind of content unquestionably? And often the serial killers end up almost being pin-ups, if you think about Jamie Dornan in The Fall, or like our obsession with a character like Hannibal Lecter or whatever, that we erase the victim. And now culturally we are focused on the victims. And I think that's a good thing. I think the thing that's a bit depressing about this is if it is a defensive crouch, which it may well be. Like, as in, if the people who made this movie, including Anna Kendrick, saw what happened to It Ends With Us, which went on to be a massive smash, by the way, and make everybody involved a lot of money, and presumably also the charities involved a lot of money, so that's a good thing. But if they watched what happened to Blake Lively and Anna Kendrick was like, I do not want that to happen to me. I also do not want that to overshadow this entire campaign and me talking about this movie that I really believe in, and so we're going to do this. That's a bit sad because we can all feel so helpless about violence against women. So in another way, is the ultimate outcome a positive one for the wrong reasons almost, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel that way about it too. But it's more that this will now be the expectation, but only for the women.
Before we go, I came across this story on the BBC over the weekend about how weird it is that Australians don't wear shoes. It's been called one of the weirdest, perplexing, odd and unexplainable Australian cultural habits. But this...
What do you mean? Like where?
It's entirely true. This is one of the things that absolutely boggled my mind when I first came to Australia. And I've actually got an American friend who moved home because of all the barefootness. He's like, shall I face Trump's America or am I dealing with bare toes in the supermarket queue? I think I'm going back to Trump's America.
Apparently it can be explained, right? Because in the 50s and 60s, Australia was marketed to migrants as somewhere you could take your shoes off because it was warm and the lifestyle, it was laid back. It was everyone's just walking around barefoot. But for a lot of overseas visitors, this is what it said, it's this odd thing that they've noticed and they really, really don't like it.
What don't they like about it? Because it's smelly?
No. They just think have some decorum.
Well, they're clearly not on WikiFeed.
No, exactly. But like last night.
Oh my God, it is a paradise for football. Yeah. In fact, tourism Australia is missing a trick. This is how we should be marketing Australia
It's
now.
Australian feet.
Home of the most beautiful feet in the world, and you can see them everywhere
Maybe
you go.
I could be the foot of Australian tourism.
Because everyone knows it's actually very good for your feet, Holly.
Well, here's the thing that is weird. So when I was young and I came to Australia and I noticed this, I used to love it. I remember going on holiday from work in my first job in Australia and being like, I'm not going to wear shoes for 2 weeks. Like, that's the mark of a holiday.
yes.
You know what I mean? I'm just going to walk around Byron Bay or wherever I was, like some backpackery town with no shoes on, and I'm going to feel so free. And now I'm old, I look at people and I'm like, put some fucking shoes on. I'm like, no shoes, no shirt. No socks.
I had to do some shopping, like supermarket shopping yesterday, and Luke came and met me and he had no shoes on. And I went, the journey of my life is discovering where the line is, because I found myself in a Westfield with no shoes on and I've crossed the line.
How did you get into a Westfield?
I feel
with no
like I
shoes?
needed to just go in and like duck in and get something, and maybe I was on my way home from the beach, because the rule is within 2 k's of a beach, no shoes.
Very Australian.
Within 2 k's of my house, I feel like no shoes. Within 500,
Sorry? Within 2 k's of your house.
Yeah, like if I was,
Would you walk to the corner shop with no shoes on?
yes.
Really?
Yeah.
On a pavement in the city?
But firstly, what are you stepping on? Second, have you seen what people do on the footpath? Have you seen that? It's disgusting.
A suburban.
Yeah, have you not seen people hoik one onto the footpath?
Oh, you know what? It'd be good for the immune system.
There's
And it's
dogs.
good for the
Ew.
foot. It's good for the foot, because we shouldn't be in shoes all the time.
Do you know what? My kids freak out if I'm wearing shoes in my house.
That freaks me out
in
too,
the
yeah.
house.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, see, it's funny always looking at where the line is. So every night I take the dogs out for a walk just to go to the toilet. I just take them across the road. And I don't like not wearing shoes because then those same feet get into my bed.
Oh, great
But-
point. Yeah. You got to wash them off before
Sometimes
bed.
I do.
You know
Sometimes
who's
I do.
wearing shoes? People who live in the country. Snakes. You would not see anyone walking around a proper country-ish town with no shoes. Snakes.
You also get very rough skin on your feet if you wear bare feet. So then you have to add an extra step to your everything shower on a Sunday night, which is exfoliating your feet with one of those foot
feet.
files.
Pumice stones.
We asked people in the Mamamia office if they're guilty of not wearing shoes, and here's what they told us.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I'm very much known for being barefoot in the supermarket all the time because I never have enough time to pop out for a shop, so I never put shoes on.
There's a time and a place for sure. I wouldn't go barefoot in the office, but I'm a fan of getting my dogs out, which basically means I love wearing sandals or thongs everywhere.
Oh my gosh, absolutely not. I have a bit of tact, thank you.
Depends on where. Like if it's a beach town, then yes. If you're more than 300 away from a beach, no.
No, that's absolutely vile.
Absolutely fucking not. People deserve jail time who do that in public. It's a visual assault on my eyes.
Listen, I'm a bit of a shoe person, so the barefoot thing worries me. It's less about what other people think and more about me tripping, hurting my toe, or falling over and embarrassing myself.
One thing you may have noticed if you follow us in your pod feed, I don't know what you call it anymore. It used to be called subscribing to a podcast. Now it's called following a podcast. Anyway, we have been dropping some little treats, and we're going to continue to drop some extra little treats, particularly on the weekend. Just other little shows that Jessie, Holly or I might have made, or things that we think you might be interested in listening to.
But if you're worried that you can't find your Friday episode,
Yes.
scroll back, promise you it's there.
It's there. That's everything from us today, Out Louders. As ever, a huge thank you to all of you for being with the three of us on this Monday. As I say, we will be here all week with your American US gossip and otherwise, and we couldn't do it without you. We'll be back in your ears tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye.
Shout out to any Mamamia subscribers listening. If you love the show and you want to support us, subscribing to Mamamia is the very best way to do it. There's a link in the episode description.